What's up, everyone? This is Alan Paris, aka Corn Lucky, and today I'm going to go over Iron for beginners, players that are picking up Iron, or you're interested in playing the character because you want to try something new and you've been playing the game. Iron is a spacing slash zoning character. Slash environmentalist, and what that means is that everything that he does propels the enemy or opponent into the environment where he picks up extra damage. The best results that you're going to get with Iron is playing him at a mid to long range because he thrives off keeping players out and off of him, and as well as counter poking them for whiffing things. He's one of the best characters in the game for whiff punishment. There's not too many characters that are on par with him just because his hitboxes on his whiff punishing attacks are fairly big, and you don't want to whiff thing. And even when players think they're outside of the range of whiffing things in the air, most of the time, if you're spacing correctly with them, they're not outside of the range and they're going to get hit. Um, you don't want to keep Iron close. Here he struggles. He has a 10 frame jab that's about the moderate speed in the game. He has a 13 frame mid and then a 13 frame low. And those things are fairly slow, especially when you're playing against a faster character or characters that have 12 frame mids and 12 frame lows. They're going to outpoke him and you're going to struggle up close because he won't be able to effectively start his offense. As you see here, his low jab does give him +1, and this takes the edge or the sting off of faster characters, just because they do have to respect it. So when he's at +1, his 13 frame mid turns into a 12 frame mid. When he's +1, his 10 frame jab turns into a 9 frame jab. He also has his throws up close. He has offensive holds there, and he has a low offensive hold as well. And although they're pretty decent options, they're not enough. It isn't enough to keep him at close range. Him being at +1, because outside of him being at +1 there, he's unsafe there and he's unsafe there. Like, he loses the advantage. So, and then even still with his offensive holds against faster characters, they can beat him out in the startup frames of him actually grabbing. Um, and what the offensive holds are going to do, they're going to catch attacks and deal extra damage. So, and those take times to be put on the screen. So they need to be well placed. So there's nothing that you can just chuck out and catch faster characters or characters that can outpoke him. So you really don't want to keep him too close here because you're gonna have a harder time playing against them. So you want them at a mid-range to long range. Now that I went over on where you want to keep Ian and how you want to play him, I'm going to show you what his spacing and zoning tools can do. Um, Change the counters to counter hit, stagger escape to fastest, and here we go. Okay, so outside in this range, say when you get your spacing and your footing down, if you have certain players that are either aimlessly whiffing stuff in the neutral game or they're not aware of how close you really are to his hitboxes, things like this will hit. And if you can see from the distance where I was at, where that actually connected at, there I missed it. So, and the attack there is also unsafe. So you saw where I hit from it before, and you saw where I just missed it. So it pays off to really understand and know where you are. But if people are whiffing things aimlessly, even from the distance where I missed it, I'm going to hit them. So that's for players who aren't aware of his spacing and his zoning options. He also has 4 free and kick, not 4 free and kick, I'm sorry, 4K. That's the correct notation for that attack. And this attack here has a very big hitbox, especially when players start whiffing attacks, because players don't know when you whiff attacks, you're also extending your hitbox to be hit. So that's why his counter blowing and him outzoning and poking characters, it works very well for him. Like you see here, I'm kind of whiffing it, and that's because he's just standing there. His hitbox really isn't, or hurtbox really isn't extending anywhere. But if he was to whiff something, it would extend out further than where he's standing. So if he whiffed anything in this direction, Hayate doesn't have anything quick that's going to hit me right here. So the moment that he moves and whiffs something, I'm hitting him with this, and he's going, as you saw here, this is also a normal hit launcher, but on counter hit as well, or high counter, they're going straight into the air. The same and how that works there is, as you see, it causes a crumple stun, and they're falling over. They have to react to the stun, or he's gonna start stringing things, not necessarily stringing things together, but immediately launching you, thus stringing together big damage from his simplistic juggles that he has. So from mid to long range is where you want to keep him to work his tools. These are two of his tools right here. He has more. That punch, the mid punch, the mid kick. He has a natural combo, the high mid. So what the natural combo is in DOA is when the first kick hits you, the second kick is guaranteed. It's actually a 2-on-1 because I'm just pressing the 2-1-4 kick by itself, and both kicks are coming out. If that attack is blocked, he's also safe. Other attacks that he has in the spacing and zoning game, he has 46 kick and 46 punch. And all of these attacks, although that, you know, I'm whiffing them now, when people whiff, and by you spacing and zoning correctly with him, these attacks are going to hit them every single time. Although Ian is best used at long to mid range, he is fairly decent being close, and when you do want him close, by me saying that, is when you actually score counter hits that did not cause a knockdown, but they caused a stun. So landing this on counter hit, this is exactly where you want him. Ian's stun launch game is ridiculous in this game just because of the damage output from any of his juggles. So off a counter hit, you go here into that. That's 83 points of damage off one stun, and then immediately launching your opponent. Playing in the stun game, really, you can play in the stun game with him, but it doesn't serve him any justice just because on counter hit and high counter hit, this is the damage that you're pretty much going to do from any of his launchers when he goes to launch you. Also, if you're new to the game, if you have been playing the game, you may see some players try to low hold to get out of certain characters' offenses. That is not applicable against Ian at all, just because the majority of his launchers are striking mid. So when players go to low hold, after you initially stun them, they're going up every single time. And he has it's a fine mix up there. The most of his mid launchers are mid kicks, and that's no issue to you there, because once people actually realize that they can't low hold out of his offense after he scores a stun, then they're actually going to start attempting to hold your mid kicks or attempting to hold your mid punches, and he has his fair share of high launchers, high kick launchers that he has. So, but the objective is, once you start realizing that people are no longer low holding against him, that's when you apply his 12 frame throw. And right there, that's on counter hit. It did 82 points of damage, but when you catch people holding on high counter, you're dealing 99 points of damage every single time. And that's pretty much the objective when players stop low holding, trying to low hold out of your offense because they can't. That's when you start applying that throw over and over again. And players, once they get caught by the throw at least once or twice, they're going to fall into the lane of, okay, well, I'm not going to hold because I tried to low hold and that's not going to work. When I stand up and hold, he's hitting me with 99 points of damage every time that he throws me. And with Ian, it works extremely well with him because everything that he does, he recovers fairly quick, and it leaves him standing there to react to whenever you hold. So with that, he mid kicks you. Everything that he does to stun you, he can easily react to it because he recovers quickly to apply the chop. And then once you have players in a position of, okay, well, I'm not going to hold against him anymore, well, then if you choose to, you can actually dabble in the stun game just a tad bit to rack up even more points of damage. So you can go here. I missed there. Yeah. When they don't decide to hold and they're like, well, okay, I'm just going to take the stun. Well, now the juggle that I showed before did 83 points of damage. Well, by you dabbling in the stun game just with a simple jab, it went from that same juggle went from 83 points of damage to 106 points of damage. The next thing I'm going to show you as far as with Iron goes is his safety, and just a quick note on how you want to play him. You don't want to play him aggressively. Iron is not an aggressive character at all. The only times when you actually want to play aggressive is if you score a counter hit, or if you picked up on how someone is playing and you know how they're going to respond, then you can play aggressive with him because you know when to poke and where to poke. But for the most part, you don't want to play him aggressively until you have that information about your opponent. But in the neutral game, Iron is unsafe, and at the same time, he is safe and picks up frame advantage. So you have to balance out between the moves and the attacks that you're going to do. As far as his spacing options, this is unsafe at minus 15. That one is unsafe at minus 12. So it's really up to you to know how to punish people whiffing attacks and how you want to zone them out when you use them. Because if you put them on someone's block, or they whiff and hit the air, and you're not too far away from them to where you can get away with whiffing it, you're going to be punished for it. As I showed you before, I was telling you before, that one's the semi-safe. It's minus 7. Only grapplers can consistently punish that, but that's me being close. If I'm at tip range and I do it, he's at minus 6. So at that point in time, only neutral throws can actually punish him for it, and those are breakable in Dead or Alive. His other options is that he has this. It's minus 15. Again, at max range, although he's at minus 15, defenders have to be on point with throw punishing for it. Throw punish him for it, because if they wait a smidget, he can backdash and get away from punishment. But for the most part, you want to watch when and how you poke with it. Make sure you don't get blocked when you do it, because he can be punished for some of his better poking tools. His 46 kick, as you see there, it gives him +1, so he's able to get in and start his shenanigans, the little that he does have. Okay, so the pros and cons of Iron. You have, well, the pros are you have a spacings as / zoning monster, like as far as keeping players away from him and off of him. His stun launch is ridiculous, because his damage output is crazy just from playing simplistically. And his cons would be is that he struggles at close range, although that he has a few tools and options to aid him up close. Most characters can just simply outpoke him and shut that stuff down. He lacks tracking abilities as far as his cons go, which is another reason why you really don't want to keep him close, just because all his tracking options, they're fairly slow. Like this tracks, his 4P tracks, although it's 13 frames, he can be outpoked by 10 frame jabbers, 9 frame jabbers, or even 11 frame jabber. And then his free and kick is at 18 frames. So you really don't want to stay too close with him, just because he's fairly linear. And that sums it up for Iron, his pros and cons, and how you want to play with him. If you want more detailed information, go to freestepdodge.com and hit up the Iron sub forums to see what other advanced things or intermediate things that you can find out about the character. And again, this is my first time doing these tutorials. Drop a comment if these were at all helpful for you, and let me know if I can do anything better and what I was doing wrong. Thanks for watching. Talk to you guys later.